yesterday I was talking, as I mentioned, I was talking to my ex-wife and my son, and it's a serious conversation about his education. And, often he freaks out and leaves the room, or I say something, I push too hard, or I say the wrong thing, and then I become the bad guy. So I'm like really being super careful in this conversation. I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know how to get the outcome I want. And suddenly it popped in my head to pray. I'm like, give my son the courage and clarity to take a chance here and give my ex-wife the ability to speak clearly. Because if she doesn't speak clearly, he gets very upset. And I said, I can't manage this at all. So I
Yeah.
just, I don't know if there's God listening, but I suddenly stopped trying to manage it. And
Mhm.
often what I do is I go numb, suppress everything because it's a no-win scenario, right? So you don't want to like put your foot in your mouth. So you um, just get kind of numb or robotic or something. So none of that happened. I was just during the prayer, I was just asking for help on that. So that was huge. And then the other
Yeah.
one was I had my head in the fridge and I hear my a housemate come in and I'm like, could be her. Pray for her joy, peace, and love. Pray for her joy, peace, and love. And then I look up and it's her. And immediately I didn't plan it. I just said, good morning. And
Mhm.
I get this like death stare. And I'm
Mhm.
like, of course she's not going to respond. But I didn't feel the normal thing a person would feel, which is anger or fear or revulsion or confusion or anything. It was just kind of like, I did the thing I'm supposed to do. She's like, probably like, this guy's a jerk. Why is he saying good morning to me? And then I turned around and, went back to the fridge or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so, like I said, I don't know if God's listening or if God exists, but these, this, this praying made those two events much less dysregulating because I think I'd be a lot more. I think I still get dysregulated from these things because these are not easy things, but they're not as they'd throw me off if I was in fight or flight. So thank you.
Yeah. No, this on both accounts you just shared, this shows great progress. The fact that your first instinct is to pray is correct because that is the one thing that can help. We cannot manage or control situations that we wish we could. It frustrates us, it angers us, and that cycle just perpetuates itself. And the only thing we can do is humbly seek God for his help, for his intervention, for his graces. So the fact that that has become your first inclination to do that when these situations arise, whether it's a stressful, hard conversation with your ex-wife and your son, or whether it is the unpleasant woman you live with, either way, your gut instinct, first and foremost, is becoming prayer, which is the best thing that you can do. You mentioned it yourself, um, that it calms you down when you do pray.
Yeah, and I'm praying in the case of I wasn't praying that my son chooses to go to this school. I was just praying for them to find their
Yeah.
way so that
Hmm.
it's a possibility. And then for her, I wasn't praying that she was going to be nice to me
Right,
or that she'd disappear in a puff of smoke or that
right,
she'd say, "Oh, I'm moving out of the house." Because to me that's more trying to control life.
right.
This is more like I've been handed a situation. Let's assume that it's all here for me to learn how to surrender and be humble.
Mhm.
And now I will have that response to the situation.
Right. And
Yeah.
just, compare these two stories you just told me and how the first thing you did was pray and seek God for help. You know, a few weeks ago, I don't know that that would have been your
No, no
first
way.
inclination.
No way. No way. I don't
It
know.
also
I don't know.
shows
Yeah.
that, you know, you're feeling the tangible effects from the prayer. Most of the time, it's calming you down, which is great because situations that would normally greatly get under your skin just won't bother you as much because you're letting it go and you're giving it to Him. And He is thus bestowing graces upon you, to calm your heart, to calm your mind, and say, it's okay. Let me take care of this. And you're doing that. And I'm glad that you're seeing results from it.
Right. So I was thinking like an atheist or an agnostic would counter what you're saying and saying, well, it doesn't necessarily mean God. It could just be that it's a psychological framework that is more helpful. But I'm like, but I don't want to say that or, do that, use that because then I diminish the power of it. The
I was
more I
just
could,
going to say,
yeah, the
I
more I
was
could
just going to say
believe that
that.
what you're saying is true, the more
Exactly.
authentic and and honest my humility and surrender is. If I'm like,
Precisely.
if I'm like, oh, I'm just doing this trick and pretending that there's a God, then it doesn't really have any teeth to it.
Right.
So, so
That's
it does
exactly.
require, and I think that's the challenge. That's why I keep going back to the numbers because I'm like, each time I run it, I have less and less belief that it's going to happen because it's accumulating a lack of success. But I do believe it's cognitive dissonance. Each time I do it and scan the numbers, holding out some hope, even if it's a little bit less than the first time. I'm still holding out hope. And if I don't have that, I think I start to get a little adrift.
Hmm.
So it's my practice. I guess other people would like go to church or synagogue or mosque, and that would help them. They'd be
Hmm.
like, well, why am I going to this building? Oh, I'm going to this building because I either believe or I want to believe or there's a
Yep.
chance it's so it's just like my reinforcement.
Well, absolutely. You got to do whatever works best for you.
Yeah.
If running the numbers is what keeps you holding on to hope and keeps your faith alive and keeps you praying every day, then that's what you do.
Yeah, because I think like for me to go to a church or a synagogue, because I've been in those buildings before, I find it very dysregulating because it's kind of like reading the Brother Lawrence book, which I haven't picked up again since we
Mhm.
spoke. It's like
Mhm.
I see all these people and I either say, they have something I don't have, so I'm jealous and I don't know what to do about it, or I go into they're pretending. And so it hasn't been helpful for me to be around it hasn't been helpful for me to be around religious communities in that way. I think a, a men's group where they're just talking, I think would be fine because it's a little more informal. And
Mhm.
talking to you is fine for the most part. Um, but I have to be conscientious of what would help me.
Mhm.
And that's kind of
Yeah,
what's
no,
helping me.
I understand that for sure. If you ever did feel your heart being drawn to the idea one day this summer of giving it a try, and you did see a couple or a few people in there, and they seemed very devout and very at peace, and those thoughts of jealousy arise, like, man, I want what they have. Well, great. You now have a new prayer and you can ask for it right there in church. Dear God, I see this person has something that I don't have. Whatever it is, I want what they have. Please give it to me. I want to believe. I want to have faith in you. You can turn it into a beautiful prayer, right? I do that when I go into church and I see someone that's extremely pious and for me it inspires me and I instantly realize, okay, they're further along than I am. I want what they have. So it inspires me to pray because they're a good example, an inspirational role model, you could say. But then also in my prayer, I will say, Lord, please give me the piety that this person has. Please give me the faith, the belief, the desire to pray above all things. You know, please help me. It can be turned into a lovely prayer.
That's really great for a priest because I think for the majority of the time the church has been active, so 2 millennia, I think priests held themselves up as the most pious in the group. But
Mhm.
I think you're like, well, if I walk into the church and my parishioners are more pious than me, or they seem to
Right,
be, then
right,
they're my inspiration. I don't
exactly.
need to be the most. I just know what the rituals are, and they need someone to stand up here on stage and wear the robes. So that's me.
Right, right. No, no. One of the prayers I say every day, it's very brief, but I pray for others to be holier than I am, provided that I become as holy as I should,
Hmm,
right?
nice. Yeah.
So, I wish everyone, if I'm being truly humble, I wish everyone is more holy than I am, provided as long as I become as holy as I should.
It's nice.
Yeah. But for me as a priest, my goal would be to be the most humble and the most meek person I can possibly be. Um, and that is going to take years of cultivating, which seminary would greatly help. Um, but that's the goal.
And
That's
I had an insight today about the vow of poverty because when I left the room, I thought I left my computer on the table. I do not know how stable this woman is. She could easily throw it out the window or
hmm
sell it or something.
hmm
And that's because I have a possession. Like the more possessions you have, if you have a difficult situation, you become not focused on God, surrender, joy, wishing them, praying
exactly.
for them to have joy. You're like, I got to protect my stuff.
Right,
So it's
right,
really great to have that the luxury, I would say the luxury of poverty where you're like, I'll be
right.
my needs will be provided for, but I don't own
Yeah.
very much. That's really a gift. Doesn't seem like it, but it is.
Yeah, it is. I personally find materialism to be a direct interference in my spiritual life. You know, it's like the great Frank Capra movie. You can't take it with you. The only thing you can take with you is your soul.